Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and I've decided that I'm going to post these types of videos on this channel because although it's automotive related, it's not really a car review or, just too car related that it really makes sense to post it on my main channel. So today we're going to go over the 5 things that I hated about being a salesperson, and then I'm obviously going to make a follow-up video to this about the 5 things that I loved about being a salesperson. But let's get into the 5 things that I hated about, with being a salesperson. The first thing that I did not like, and a lot of people that have been in the automotive industry can relate to this, and that was the hours. The hours were absolutely miserable at times. So like a regular job, right? Everyone always says like 9 to 5, right? You work 40 hours a week. That is not the case when you are a salesperson. Most dealerships, what they do is they have their salespeople work from around 8 to 9 in the morning till 5 to 6 at night. So almost a 9 to 5, but a little bit, usually 9 hours a day. Or they'll have them work like a later shift, which would be around noon roughly, and then ending at closing time for that dealership. That's pretty typical for most dealerships. Luxury dealerships are a little bit different because they typically close earlier, but most dealerships will do that, and they usually have their salespeople on average work 9 hours a day. However, on top of having to work 9 hours a day, most dealerships will also have their salespeople burn, which that is working all day. And the reason they do this is so that the other, team at a dealership can have that day off. So then one team will work all day, the other team will have off, and then the next thing will happen, typically the next day. And so on top of having to work, 9 hours for 4 days out of the week, the 5th day out of the week, you have to work a 12-hour shift, which, yeah, it ends up being a lot of hours. And I can tell you from my personal experience with being in sales, I worked a lot more than that at times. I had one month where I sold almost 30 cars, and I can tell you right now, that month I was in the dealership every single day at 10 o'clock, and I left at 9 o'clock every single day of the week, except for Sundays, which all dealerships are closed in Utah. But yeah, that is definitely something that I did not like, and it's something that I do not miss at all. Even though with this channel, I am, like today, for example, I got up at 10 o'clock and I went from 10 o'clock till 3 o'clock this afternoon. I spent all that time posting videos to Facebook, which, it's a lot to do, just, constantly doing that. And I posted over 50 videos to Facebook today. However, I actually enjoy doing it. And there's a difference between, sitting in a dealership and waiting for customers to come in and cold calling customers, to me sitting on my couch watching a crime drama, to be honest, and uploading videos to Facebook. Like, there's a pretty big difference in just how easy something is, I guess I should say. But my job's not easy. Anyways, yeah, that was a huge thing that I didn't like with sales, was really long hours. Now, the second thing that I did not like with sales is, this is related to the third thing, but I'm just going to put it in this one category, and that is issues with cars. This was the most stressful part of my job. I mean, it was absolutely horrible having to deal with, a customer coming back in because something was broken on their car, or this or that, or, even new vehicles. Sometimes a new vehicle would have a scratch or ding or dent on it, and just all these little things that would happen were extremely stressful. And, sometimes you'd worry about it, making it so that a car deal wouldn't go down, and then obviously you spent all these hours calling someone, meeting with them, showing them the car, all that kind of stuff, and then they don't buy because there's a big issue. And so that was definitely something that I don't miss, that I absolutely hated about being a salesperson. And that obviously transcends any position at the dealership. That just sucks, and it's kind of the reality of it. It's gonna happen. It doesn't matter how top-notch a dealership is. There's gonna be things that go through, and it's a car at the end of the day. Cars have so many moving parts and computers nowadays that things are bound to break. So even if a mechanic inspects everything, chances are there could still be something that just pops up that, even though it wasn't wrong at the time the car landed on the dealership, something pops up essentially. So yeah, another thing that I hated bitterly that I do not miss was having issues with cars on the lot. Now, the third thing that I won't say that I hated this, but this is something that I greatly disliked, and that was, actually I will say I hated this: rude customers. I did not hate customers. I need to make sure that is clear. I actually loved meeting people, but I hated rude customers. I mean, you would be absolutely surprised how rude people are to car salesmen. And I get it that there's a lot of stigma that car salesmen are going to make money off of you and this and that, and I understand, but just some people would just treat you like absolute garbage, and you had to treat them right, because if you didn't, they would just go buy from someone else. And sometimes I felt like it really wasn't worth it. And the thing that I did think was crazy was, as in my sales position, I wasn't paid on gross commission. So what that means is I wasn't paid on profit. I was paid purely on a volume basis. So I wasn't actually trying to make a ton of money off of people. I was just trying to move volume. So I didn't care if the dealership made money or not on a car deal. But people still, from time to time, would just treat you like garbage because they had a bad, typically it's because they had a bad experience with a salesperson in the past. And so then it carries over. And I understand. But yeah, that's something that I definitely do not miss, was just customers that, I mean, really, like, I think I'm going to make a video series about like customers from hell, basically. Like, there were some experiences that I had that just, yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous, and I'm just glad that I don't have to deal with it anymore. Now, the fourth thing that I do not miss from being at a car dealership, or I should say being a car salesman, is the fluctuation in pay. And if any of you have ever worked any sort of commission type job, then you completely understand this. I mean, there can be just a massive fluctuation in pay. I think my first or second year selling cars, I think I had like 1 month where I made like less than $2,000, and then I had another month where I made like 15 or 16 grand. Like, that big of a difference, like 10 times as much in 1 month. And it's just, it was frustrating, and sometimes it was pretty stressful. I never put myself in a, situation financially where I needed money. I always had savings, so it wasn't like I was super stressed out. But at the same time, it was really frustrating to work the same amount of hours 1 month and then make twice as much the next month, again, working the same amount of hours just because it happened to be a better month. And I do deal with that with YouTube to an extent. I'm actually going to make a video about that because that's something that I'm dealing with this month. Ad rates in January on YouTube are extremely low, but again, it's a whole nother video. But yeah, it's something that I really do not miss, just the huge fluctuations in pay. And even though I was paid on volume, it still could fluctuate month to month, because some months it's really easy to sell cars. There's just a lot of people in the market. Other months, it seems like it's near impossible to sell a car. There's not a lot of people in the market. So even if you're not paid on gross commission, it's sometimes just hard to move units and obviously have a lot of volume to make a paycheck. And that then, I guess, leads me to the fifth thing, which happens at pretty much any job, and that's just politics. And I guess this isn't, again, isolated to the car business, but it's something that I just don't have to really deal with anymore, that I do YouTube full-time, that I'm actually really grateful that I don't have to deal with. And just the politics at any job are frustrating. You're going to have people that you have to play nice with, that you just really don't like, you really don't want to be around. And you're going to have people that are in positions, maybe beside you or below you or above you, that just really shouldn't be in those positions. Again, it doesn't matter if they're below you, in the same position you, or above you. There's so many times in life where people get into a certain position because of who they know, not because of their ability to succeed and excel in that position. And that's just a reality of life that I've accepted from a really, really young age. But at the same time, it was something that I had to deal with, and I absolutely hated dealing with it. It was so frustrating when, just all the little things associated with it, I guess. Just having to answer to someone and you're like, geez, you do not know what you're talking about. How did you ever get this far? And I mean, the biggest thing that I noticed was just a lack of work ethic. And that's why I love YouTube so much. Again, this is sort of turning into a video about how much I love YouTube and not a video about the things I hate about the car business. But I mean, I'm rewarded for my work on YouTube. If I work hard and I do the right things, I get more views and I get paid more, right? Whereas sometimes with that job, yes, to an extent that happens. Like, as a salesperson, if you work hard, you get more customers, then you can make more money. But sometimes there are situations where, you should be rewarded and you just don't get extra reward for your hard work. And it can be super, super frustrating. And you could have someone next to you that just isn't trying nearly as hard, and they could get rewarded, again, just because of who they know, essentially. And again, this isn't isolated to the car business. This is any sort of business. If you work with in any sort of, I guess, big company, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter. And it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just reality, I guess. But yeah, I mean, those are the 5 things that I hated about doing, or I can't even talk right now. Those are the 5 things that I hated about the car industry and working in it as a salesperson. I can make like a follow-up video. Again, I'll make one about the things that I loved, but I can make like a follow-up video about the 5 things that I hate about being a manager too, because there's some things there as well. But I'm not trying to bag on the car industry or anything like that. I think it's a great industry to work in. You can obviously make a great living, and if you love cars, it's definitely worth it. It's just not for everyone. For my type of personality, I mean, I think that it could work. Obviously, it did work. I made a very good living. Long term, I think it could work, but I just don't think that that's kind of like my calling in life, and I don't think it's meant for me. And so that's part of the reason why I have these negative things that I feel about the car industry, is not necessarily because it's a bad industry, but because it's not meant for me. It's the same thing, you know, when people go to school for a certain degree, get a job in that, and then they realize they hate it. And it's not because it's a bad industry to be in whatever they're in. It's just because it's not meant for them. And so I guess that's my takeaway from this video. But anyways, if you happen to be stopping it for the first time, please subscribe, comment down below what you think. And I will see all of you in that next video, and probably in the same shirt.